Okay, so I'm going to be presenting SketchUp. So this is our SketchUp in construction. In this webinar, we're going to do like an overview on how SketchUp is being used in construction and what the value is. We're going to specifically focus on what we kind of call virtual design and construction. Some people call it modeling in a constructible way. And we're also going to focus on 3D details because I think that SketchUp really stands in its own league there. It kind of has invented the wheel there, actually. And we're going to also introduce PlusSpec. It's a SketchUp extension, and it's specifically for construction and estimating. But I do want to make sure that we cover, for those of you who aren't from the SketchUp world and want to know more, what it is. And more importantly, even if you are a SketchUp ninja and you've been using it for years, where it fits in the Trimble portfolio and why it works so well with all of the different Trimble products. A lot of the times we still get people asking us if, or referring to SketchUp as Google SketchUp, and it isn't. It is a Trimble product that has been for some time, and there's some really exciting new features in SketchUp and in Trimble that I want to show you. And I'll do so at the early phase of this webinar. So my name is Drew Povey. I'm the Division Manager for the Architecture and Design Division at Building Point. Quick housekeeping. I do want to do an important disclaimer. I'm working from home. I assume that many of you are too. So we do have a few webinar threats here due to that working from home, thanks to the nasty COVID-19. I have a low, medium, and high threat here. My low threat is my little baby monster. If you hear a baby crying in the background, please try and look past that. I also have a fluffy monster. He tries to kick me off my seat all the time, so if he barks, it's just because he's not getting enough attention. You can see here he's actually modeling in SketchUp, so even dogs can draw with SketchUp. But the highest threat to this webinar is actually the lag. So if we do get some lag throughout the session, please just write it in the actual chat. I'll do my best to slow down. I don't really want to spend too long in a PowerPoint or slides presentation. I'd rather get into the 3D model. But if that's causing problems, then again, just let us know and we'll try to slow down. Melbourne broadband isn't too great, it seems. But just want to point out quickly too that I'm actually, everything that I've done for this presentation, and it was knocked up pretty quickly, is using SketchUp and SketchUp layout. So that's the 2D side of SketchUp, where you create your diagrams, presentations, branding, and professional 2D construction drawing. I love it. As you can see, you can literally do anything in there. It's bringing back a bit of artistry. It's time for me to move on quickly. So I want to firstly start with just an overview of the SketchUp toolbox, because often when people talk about SketchUp, they are only talking about the 3D app or the 3D side of SketchUp. So hopefully everyone here knows about SketchUp, they've heard SketchUp, and if you have, you would know that it's the world's #1 3D drawing tool. So the reason it is so used by everyone is because it has been made for everyone. There isn't a specific niche or industry that it suits only. It is SketchUp or 3D modeling for everyone. And in that respect, it's used by professionals for professional tasks, but it is also used by DIYers, mums and dads, tinkerers, you name it, they're using SketchUp. But when you get a SketchUp subscription, not only do you get the 3D app, you're also getting a bunch of others. And here are just a few of them, actually. But the first one that I want to raise is layout, and that's the 2D side. Again, I brought it up earlier, so I won't stay on that for too long. But full professional 2D drawings, whether you're doing furniture, whether you're doing architecture or construction, you can do anything with this tool. It also does come with the mobile viewer. The mobile viewer is great because it's how you can take your SketchUp model wherever you go, on your phone, on your tablets. It's also a way that you can introduce it to your clients so that they can see your projects, how you want them to see it. So it's a communication tool. You can't draw with the mobile viewer, but you can take measurements, and it is being used in the field. If you have a SketchUp subscription, you also get a VR tool, and I'll jump into that when we get into our mixed reality. However, I want to really highlight Trimble Connect. So, like the majority of Trimble products, Trimble Connect is this connector, probably why it's called Trimble Connect. And it is what is going to give you the ability to not only store all of your different projects on the cloud, because you do get unlimited storage or cloud storage with your SketchUp subscription, but it is a hell of a lot more than that. It is a way that you can communicate and collaborate within your team, but also with consultants, sub-consultants, your customers, and it's also how you can, for example, be working with a structural engineer, and that structural engineer might be using a specific program, Revit or AutoCAD or any of the others. And it doesn't matter what tool they're using, because Trimble Connect allows you to bring any format together and then combine them. So I won't spend too long here. So I'm going to move on. However, we just did a webinar on Trimble Connect, and it was an overview. So if you want to see the recording, or I believe we'll also be doing a repeated webinar in the near future, if you want to go along and check it out in more detail, I highly recommend that, because if you are already a SketchUp user, it will completely transform the way that you store your projects, but also, and more importantly, communicate them. And I'm not going to spend too long on the next two. Style Builder gives you the ability, if you're wanting to present your projects in a certain way, like you've drawn up from hand, you can do that. The 3D Warehouse, it is the #1 or the largest 3D warehouse in the world. It's where you can find content, models of anything essentially. So if you're looking for something, you can always find it, and it also has branded products in there. So there's a lot that you're getting with the SketchUp toolbox. In actual fact, you're getting a little bit more. There's also SketchUp for web, so you can always be on the web browser and you can check it out. It's also how you can share your models, but I'm going to skip past those and I'm going to jump straight into mixed reality. So SketchUp is playing really nicely with the various Trimble products for mixed reality. There are a few that have just been released. Again, I'm only going to give an overview. I'm not going to dive into them. We will be having a Sight Vision and I believe a HoloLens webinar coming up in the following days, so check out that schedule and make sure you come along and see it in detail. But the benefit with SketchUp is that directly and natively you can turn your SketchUp models and bring them into the XR10 HoloLens 2, the SketchUp Viewer, and Trimble Sight Vision. So there's not many other formats that play so nicely with the different mixed reality solutions. Now on top of this, which I haven't provided, there's also virtual reality solutions out there, and SketchUp plays very nicely with virtual reality solutions too. However, at Trimble and at Building Point, we are super excited about augmented reality and mixed reality. So Trimble Sight Vision is augmented reality. You can bring up your SketchUp models on your phone. You can geolocate it. It's using GPS, so it's automatically placed on site, and you can literally walk around your design. You can strip it back. You can see the structure if you've got the structure in there. You can show your customer or yourself what it feels like to walk through space. And for me, mixed reality on site is what makes sense, because it's going to, for me, like the only way you understand space is by walking through it, not by putting on a goggle and pressing buttons like you're in a game. And the XR10 acts in a very similar way. It's mixed reality. You are able to load your SketchUp projects with the HoloLens 2 fixed to the Trimble helmet. So this is the only solution that is viable on a site. All right, I'm going to quickly continue giving an overview of the Trimble products before we dive into how SketchUp is being used in construction. But again, these are all showcasing the different strategies of using SketchUp and Trimble products, of how you can bring it from a SketchUp model into the field. This one's pretty exciting actually, and that's layout and scanning solutions. So we are having a lot of contractors and tradies that are using Trimble products, such as total stations and so forth. And now with SketchUp, you're able to implement them or bring them straight into those devices. So for example, there is the Trimble field points for SketchUp. This extension is free. It enables you to obviously bring your design, bring it into site, and actually get rid of the way that you're actually marking out or measuring your site. So we have a really good quote here: "The days of pegs, lines, and tape measures are over." We have Adrian Benge, he's a builder that is using this solution. He uses SketchUp. I believe he uses PlusSpec too, and he brings it into the Trimble field points with his total station. And he is, check out our blog. I won't go into too much right now. And he's really showcasing the benefits that he's seeing from being able to have this virtual design model that he's then bringing out to lay out his project on site, on the field. SketchUp and Tekla. SketchUp and Tekla, they can export and import natively, so they work extremely well together. I'll give you a couple of examples of this. And benefit of this is that if you are doing your design work in SketchUp, but you need to send it to a structural engineer or someone that needs to draw it up in incredible detail, and if they're using Tekla, then you can always import and export and do overlays and make sure that the structure that you've been given by your structural engineer matches your SketchUp model. The other big benefit is that a lot of Tekla users are using SketchUp to create libraries of components or objects. SketchUp is very good for creating whatever you want. There's no restrictions really in what you can create. If you can think it, you can draw it. And obviously in other programs like Tekla, Revit, ArchiCAD, and other BIM solutions, that becomes incredibly difficult when you're trying to do these one-off bespoke things. So it works very well with Tekla. This one's really exciting. So this is actually new. It's point clouds directly inside of SketchUp. So it's called Trimble Scan Essentials for SketchUp. It's hot off the press. It's only just been released. So if you want to have a 30-day trial, and that's something that you're interested in, I will ask that you write in the conversation box that you're interested, and reach out to us for the 30-day trial. But basically, it enables you to bring in any Trimble or point cloud product and bring it natively into SketchUp. You can bring up a variety of file types such as RWP. I won't go through that list, but there's a whole bunch. So it's incredible. We've had a lot of our team that have been beta testing it, and they love it. It is an incredibly affordable solution compared to everything else that's out there. Just for reference, it will be approximately 900 Australian dollars per year, yet to be 100% confirmed by us. But again, happy for you to do the 30-day trial. Let us know what you think, and when you're ready, we're there to help you. But now we're getting into really the main part that we're going to be giving like a demonstration on today, and that's virtual design and construction and 3D detail examples. We are also going to be giving just a bit of an overview on PlusSpec, which is an extension for SketchUp, and it just gives you essentially the power of Revit inside of SketchUp. And then on top of that, you're getting really high-level, powerful estimating features. So I'm going to leave layout now, or this kind of PowerPoint-ish presentation, and I'm going to jump into some models, and I'll pull up some drawings that I want to show you, because I think that this is where we see just very quick wins for anyone that's on the field. So anyone that, whether you're doing the design part and you're actually passing over your design to a builder, contractor, or trade, or if you're the builder, contact, trade, and you've got a project that's been delivered to you that you need to build, this is the best way to virtually build it, to understand if there are mistakes, and if you don't understand it, to build it out so that you can easily communicate any problems and issues to other stakeholders, and more importantly, you can just show the customer what potential issues could be and resolve them before you get on site. And this is why 3D details and virtual design and construction is becoming even more important for residential and commercial builders. So I think that in the near future, we'll see more and more architects and building designers that start to deliver it in this way because it will be an expectation. Okay, I'm going to quickly just open a couple files. I want to just show you Tekla first. And in this example, you can see that it was built, or this project, very small project, was built inside of Tekla, and it was exported as an SKP file, which is the file type for SketchUp. The import is fantastic. All of the details that have been drawn and captured inside of Tekla have come through into SketchUp. So if I were to have been, or now wanting to do more of a pretty kind of overlay or design and showcase the finished materials and what I'm trying to do aesthetically, then I can easily draw over this. Now, because this is a reference file, it means that I can always update it. And in actual fact, if you get into Trimble Connect, you can actually bring in what used to be called X references in AutoCAD, which is where you can have someone that's working on one file that will automatically update once you update it in Trimble Connect. So then this file would automatically update with any of your structural engineers' changes, and that's fantastic. Because obviously as a designer, an architect, or even a builder, you're not really wanting to mess around with the steel details. You're just wanting to make sure that there are no issues with any design changes. I've got another one here. I might actually just close that one down and showcase. This is actually a very quick project that one of our Building Point Tekla team members did actually. I believe their family member was wanting to build a garage. They were having a tremendous amount of problems getting it approved by council. So he jumped into SketchUp, he geolocated it. SketchUp is a sales tool first and foremost. That's one thing I want to kind of leverage or start talking about now. All of the other software that's out there are enabling you to do tasks, and very niche tasks, very powerfully. But ultimately, the main reason why everyone keeps coming back to SketchUp is because there is no better or greater sales tool. Everyone understands the SketchUp model. Everyone understands 3D. And because you're analyzing and viewing a model in a way that is natural, people get it right away. And so here he was able to actually, because it's a pure steel, detail everything inside of Tekla. Again, SKP, save it as SKP, import it straight into his project, where he's even put the neighbors, etc., put his measurements in there, created a series of still shots, and even if you really needed to, could have created some professional 2D drawings, sent them off to council. But what he found, and what a lot of builders, architects, and designers are finding right now, is that you require less 2D drawings when you have incredibly powerful 3D drawings, when you can present it in a way that everyone immediately understands. Overhanging issues, measurements, how does it actually interact with the neighboring buildings? And this is obviously quite a schematic mock-up, but you can see what you can do in such a quick and fast way. Now, again, I could start modeling over this. I could have included it. If I had already done the design in SketchUp, then all I would have done is overlaid the Tekla structural model too, just to make sure that everything's still okay. I'm going to close that too. Just a reminder, if you do have any questions, please write them in the box and we'll address them at the end. I'm now going to jump in and just really reinforce what I've been talking about, and that's sales, SketchUp as sales. Architects, designers, and builders, traditionally pretty bad salespeople. Builders are a little bit better. But that's the number one reason. Why would you bring a SketchUp model into your business if you are a builder or if you're going onto site? For me, it always comes down to dollars and cents. It always comes down to what's my quickest and easiest return of investment, and that is sales. It doesn't take you too long with SketchUp to be able to draw a project, even if you're the builder and you're redrawing what the architect or designer has drawn. You can then present it to your customer in a way that they understand. But more importantly, if there are changes throughout the process of the build, if your customer is asking you to add additional elements, you can draw it and show them. And again, if you're the architect or designer, you're doing the exact same thing, and then you're passing it along to the builder. I don't know how often we hear from customers that are, going through the process of their build, and they're so devastated and disappointed at the end because they get something they don't want. And I don't understand that now, because we can present in 3D model, we can present in 3D with SketchUp. And I agree, the other software solutions, although it's 3D, they're not a sales tool. You're never really going to sit down with Revit and ArchiCAD and all the others and walk through the project with your customer, and not in the same way as SketchUp anyway. But this gives you the ability to do it. So why would you rely on 2D drawings when you can rely on 3D to showcase your customer what they're going to get? So SketchUp as a sales tool is first and foremost, it costs $400, and I guarantee you'll see that return of investment 50 times over, even if you just use it as a sales tool and to explain problems, issues, and the way things are going to look. I've just had someone reach out just saying that they've had the same picture on the screen for the last 20 minutes. You shouldn't, because now you should be seeing a 3D model on the screen, and we have been presenting throughout the slides. So potentially you could log out and then log back in. Alternatively, we are recording this so we can send it out to you too. All right, so I'm gonna just quickly shut that one too. Now, guys, I'm working on a laptop here. That's why I've got so many files I want to show you, and you can already see I've got a bunch of them open. But that's also showing you that you can work on really large SketchUp files and not be bogged down. So if you are on, if you're on site, you don't have to be worried about the level or the sophistication of your laptop or the computer that you have. Because if you've drawn it in SketchUp and you've drawn it right, you'll be able to load it and view it on any laptop, even if it's just a clunky one that's full of sand and cement, because it's been on site from the very beginning. You will have no problems. Now I'm going to get into virtual design and construction here. And so sales models can also be virtual design and construction, because really we're just using the terminology of virtual design and construction to say, all other software, Revit, ArchiCAD, all the others, these so-called BIM software, they don't put the details in there. They're in a 3D format anyway. They're basically, when you draw a wall, it's just a big fat empty wall that actually has no detailing that's going on. Whereas virtual design and construction is taking it to the next level. It's saying that there is going to be frame, there's going to be steel, there's going to be MEP, and there's going to be finished materials that are shown inside of the model. And the benefit for this is so that you can understand clashes, mistakes, errors, and more importantly, that you can communicate to every single person that needs to build that project in the right way. Very famous architects have said in the past that God or the devil is in the details, and I'm 100% a believer in that. So I'm going to show you that this is a sales model that you can be, showing your customer and saying, hey, look how pretty this is. But at the same time, you can jump into the structure. And every single stick, all of the frames have been created here. Now, this is a PlusSpec model, and I'll showcase PlusSpec to you shortly. And that's what it is doing. Not only is it giving you parametric BIM tools that are filled with information, but they are actually also putting automated structure during the process. I want to emphasize, though, even if you're not using PlusSpec, you can achieve the same result just using SketchUp. It's just going to be a lot slower, but the results will be the same. But this is incredible, and like on site for a contractor, how many times do you see when they go in and when you're going to site and you're putting in your air conditioning, whatever, there's a clash with the structure, and it hasn't been adequately allowed for. And this is why so many builders are jumping onto SketchUp and also PlusSpec, so that they can really understand virtually the project before they go out onto site and before it costs them money. Because once you get on the site and then you realize a mistake, especially if you're doing a fixed price, you're in a hell of a lot of trouble. This resolves that. And this is still a fairly simple model, but you can see that it's got quite complex footings. It's got all of the stairs, the slab, the way the MEP is reacting, drop edge beams. Drop edge beams are one of the #1 mistakes that a lot of people make. because normal software, when it's not virtual design and construction, it's too simplified. It's allowing you to make those errors because it's not forcing you to think, what are you doing structurally? Again, if you were using, you weren't using timber and this was going to be steel, then you could be using Tekla. Tekla will do all of that back-end work for you, bring it straight back into SketchUp, you overlay it around your design, you can do this exact same thing here, making sure that your structure and the finished materials are working really nicely. So you can combine a 3D model and achieve multiple results, from that sales tool to that virtual tool, where now I can walk through and I can say to all of my different trades on site, this is what you're going to need to be aware of with the framing. And I'll give you some examples of what a lot of builders around Australia are doing with this technology. Again, whether it's with PlusSpec or without, just using SketchUp, and what kind of benefits they're seeing from it. But that's an overview here. Again, you can also go in, you can check out, for example, the different scenes, and you can set up in SketchUp different views, different scenes that you want to click on that will take you straight there. So for example, if you're wanting to only show your frame as something, you can just show the frame. If you want to show like a detail that you need to raise because there might be a problem on site with the way that your MEP or piping or whatever is going to work with your structure, then again, quickly bring up that scene. It'll take you right there. You don't have to mess about and trying to find that location. Okay, so I am going to load up a couple of projects for you, because the other thing I need to just quickly mention is that you might not be using SketchUp for your 2D drawings, but you can, and a lot of people don't realize that. SketchUp layout has come so far in such a short amount of time. So 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if you were to say to me, can I use layout to produce very professional 2D drawings very quickly, very easily, I would have been lying to you. But now it does. It's my favorite 2D drawing tool by far. I'm going to show you a couple of examples from real customers. So I'm going to bring up this one here, and then we'll start trying to jump into some 3D details, because the 3D details, you're not ever going to really draw every single thing in the virtual design and construction model, so you're still going to need to combine it with 3D details. And even if you don't leverage SketchUp to do a full virtual design and construction model, you might not need to put every single piece of timber in there, for example. The 3D details are what's going to enable you to pull that project apart and still make sure that everything is working how you want it to be, and you're communicating it in a completely different way. So this is a builder in WA, Max Klaus. He's using SketchUp. He does use PlusSpec, and he produces his designs. He's a design build firm, but he produces his full 3D model. That in turn produces his 2D drawings, professional 2D drawing sets, and he also produces his estimate. So I'm going to quickly skip through here. And prior to this, he never drafted before. So this is the first time that he's been drafting. Very, if I was to zoom in here, you'd see that they're very clean, very crisp sets. And this is one of his first sets that he's produced. So I think it's amazing. Floor plans, skip through, and you can go through your elevation sections. Again, because you're drawing with a virtual design construction model, there's no fibbing or lying when it comes to your sections too. It makes sections a hell of a lot easier to put or include into your 2D drawings. Okay, I'm going to keep on loading some examples, and whilst I do that, I'll actually load a model that he has given to us in the past to showcase, and that's the 3D model of the 2D drawings that I was bringing up on screen. But I also want to show you, for example, what users are doing just with SketchUp and SketchUp layout, and that is full structural set. So again, I'm going to show you 3D details, but you can still produce very professional 2D details straight with SketchUp layout. So again, if you need this when you're going on site into construction, whether you're designing or you're just building, you can do that very easily with SketchUp. So really professional sets here. I'm not zooming in too far. Skip through them. And all of these details are actually inside the model. There are the little vignettes, so there is a combination of those 2D details, but also the 3D details. And I'll explain why I think 3D details is the future as we go on. Just going to wait for that one to load. There we go, almost there. There we go. So this is the model for the 2D drawing set that I showed you previously from the WA Builder. Again, another great example of a virtual design and construction model. And this has been drawn using PlusSpec to SketchUp. I'm not going to go through everything. I'm actually just going to go through the scenes. And I'm just going to show you a couple. So I'm going to show roof off potentially. Yeah, let's go to that scene. So again, the scenes are your friend. They enable you on site, whether you're using the SketchUp mobile viewer. Because again, you could be putting this on your tablet on site, giving it to the foreman, or on a laptop, on your mobile phone. And the mobile view will work in much in the same way in how you can view. So if you set up the scenes, you will be able to do that. Pull the roof off, have a look at what's going on structurally. So I might be saying, hey, guys, you're going to have to be aware of this case scenario, this here and here and here. Make sure that you allow for it. And for me, I just don't think, there's no room for error in this. And I think that that's where everyone involved, whether you're the designer or you're the person building it, you're going to reap the rewards from virtual design and construction. Now I can keep on pulling this model back. I can go into structure mode. So for example, jump into the structure. It's showcasing what's going on with the roof, how that's interacting with the steel, how he's bracing it, timber onto the brickwork itself. So how you're going to fix the timber to the brick, or the sheeting there, I should say. And more importantly, really understanding what's happening with the slabs. I might even show the slab if I just go up on the slab through the different scenes here. Concrete layout. So very sophisticated, like there's obviously all the recesses, drop edge beams, a lot going on here. And the good thing about SketchUp too, which I'll just quickly highlight, is that the style in how you present is totally up to you. If you want to show it in black and white, you can. If you want to show it in color, you can. If you want to show it so you can see through the different objects, like with this style with the dashed lines, very easy to do that. They're all built directly inside of SketchUp, so you can go through your styles and just choose the way that you like to present. Okay, so I'm going to quickly try and show you a couple of other examples here. Let's just actually start jumping into some 3D details now. So I'm going to load a couple as we're talking, and I'm also going to show you a couple more sheets of what people are producing. So I'm going to open that whilst this loads. Bring it over to the side. This is 3D details, and this is actually from a US project, Zachary Engineering. And you can see that this engineering firm is no longer using 2D drawings. They've completely stopped doing flat 2D drawings, in fact, because their belief is one that we share, and that is a 3D detail is going to be 100 times more powerful. There's no deciphering in 2D drawings. I've been reading 2D drawings for 15 years. I consider myself to be pretty damn good at understanding and deciphering 2D drawings. But the truth is, if you give a plan set of 2D details and 2D drawings to 5 different builders, you are going to end up with slightly different results because of that deciphering. 3D details don't enable you to have those same mistakes. And that's why SketchUp is in its own league. As I said before, I really believe that it's kind of the first software that's enabling you to really go to town on 3D detailing and produce 3D detailing. Once you build your libraries, it becomes a very easy way, every single project, to either repeat the same detail or to modify it to suit the unique conditions of a different project. So I'm going to just run through a few here. Again, for me, I can look at the 3D detail and I can, without any deciphering, I understand exactly what the intent is, what I require to do to actually build that. And also, you know, if you're a builder, you can look at that and say, I don't think that's going to work. Where are the mistakes? Where are the flaws? I believe 2D details take longer to do that. Often you're relying on line work. You know, what does that dash line mean versus the really thick line? And you know, this is powerful being able to see it even with color and texture, which is why a lot of people doing 3D details are including the color and texture. So, for example, you're not going to be putting every screw in. You're not going to, even in the virtual design and construction model, you're not going to put every fastener in. But in the 3D details, you are going to, because there are important things that you're going to be passing on to the trades on site. And again, these are just being presented on a 2D drawing, on a construction inside of layout. So I just had a question. These were created inside of SketchUp for layout, so SketchUp layout. When you draw inside of SketchUp, you're drawing 1:1. When you go into layout, all you're doing is assigning for that viewport what scale you want it to be. 1:100, 1:50, 1:20, 1:10, whatever it may be. So if you're then dimensioning the plan, I'll quickly show you inside, or the detail inside of your drawings, the dimensions will be at scale. In this particular case here, this customer has opted not to really do dimensions or callouts. Instead, they're using just this kind of bubble callout system, whatever you want to call it, or keynoting, I believe is the official term. So it depends on how you want to produce your details. But I think that gives a really nice kind of overview and a combination. So 2D drawings inside the 3D drawing set, and I think, or I hope, that most of you see the value between a 3D detail versus a 2D detail, but the 2D details will still have their place. This is a full, so this has not been drawn using PlusSpec at all. This is purely native SketchUp. So again, you can draw every single stick, you can draw every single frame, steel, whatever you need inside of SketchUp, and you can easily keynote it, annotate it, put your legends, create very professional, beautiful drawings. And I've had a question, are all of these details a separate SketchUp model? We'll go into that. Most 3D details, you're better off having them as a vignette. And what I mean by that is they don't belong in any specific model. They are a 3D detail unto itself. And then what you do is you bring that 3D detail and you drop it into your project and make sure that if you need to adjust it, you can then adjust it. But the actual 3D detail is separate. And I'll bring up a model very shortly showcasing how you can have your 3D details inside of your SketchUp model. But very nice drawings, concrete, everything else going on there, the notation, everything in there that you need to produce for a professional 2D drawing set. So I'm going to close that down. I'm going to show you, this is a little vignette, a 3D detail. This is actually a detail from the Architecture Association of New South Wales. They were having some issues in kind of resolving some details, so that's why they resorted to SketchUp, and they use SketchUp predominantly to create 3D details. So a lot of people again think of SketchUp as just this schematic thing. It's something you're going to do to early phase conceptual design. That is so far wrong. It's not even funny. It's a shortcut to thinking. You can use, and what I'm trying to show you, SketchUp in so many different ways, from yes, a design, yes, schematic or conceptual thing, but you can also use it as a sales model. You can also use it as this 3D detailing, virtual design construction model, and however you use it, you're going to get an immense return of investment. So just to reiterate here, we have a lot of firms, a lot of construction firms and architecture firms that only use SketchUp for 3D detailing, and that's their choice, but that's where they see their biggest value. And here it's just showcasing in this detail, how it's getting insulated, and because SketchUp is so easy to learn, you don't need to have BIM managers that are doing it. You can teach anyone SketchUp, and you can draw back and pull back all of your different layers to create these interesting 3D vignettes to showcase how, for example, your insulation is going to be sitting on top of your rafters or your joists, and how that's getting tied down, and where's your ventilation going, etc. These details are extremely easy to produce with SketchUp. So they're pure SketchUp, and there is nothing easier to use to create them. The fade effect, I'm having a few questions and I'll answer it now, is actually just a setting. So not only can you put your shadows, because you can geolocate your projects inside of SketchUp. So longitude, latitude, have it in the exact location, so you can do your sun studies, design studies, etc. But it also enables you to put like what we call fog, and that's basically a depth of field. The reason we use it is because we just feel as though it gives you some really nice results in showing what's in the foreground versus background, etc. And you can kind of fog out or fade out parts that are in the distance that you don't necessarily really want to be focusing on. And with one little vignette, this only has 2 scenes, but one little vignette could actually have about 5 details just in itself. How is the tiling getting laid onto the joists? How are the tie downs, the brick working over in this corner, and so forth. So, you know, termite barrier. So the other thing about SketchUp is a lot of people think that it isn't BIM, and that's also a lie. It is BIM. SketchUp is 100% BIM. There's just kind of a bit of misinformation and misunderstanding with BIM. BIM is essentially information. It just means that whatever you're drawing, one, it knows what it is, and that information is being displayed. So inside of SketchUp at any time, you can not only create a layer via its, what it is, masonry versus hardware, footings, flooring, whatever it may be, but you can also have your entity info, so that when you are drawing in there, it will tell you IFC categories, it will tell you what kind of brick, what size joist you're using. All of that metadata is essentially what BIM is. And SketchUp does that. It just doesn't do it in any forcible way. It's really up to you to create your own system. PlusSpec is a little bit different, so I'm about to dive into that quickly because we are running out of time. And that one is actually going to categorize everything for you. More in that traditional, what we traditionally look at BIM, which is more realistically parametric modeling. So I'm going to go File, New, just whilst I do that. Okay. I'm going to showcase these PlusSpec tools. I have it loaded here, and it is an extension that we sell at SketchUp Australia. It is an Australian owned and made extension for SketchUp. And the benefit is, if you are trying to estimate, really, it's the fundamental point of difference. But obviously, it is going to make everything that you do in SketchUp 20 to 50 times faster. And that in itself is worth every penny that you spend on it, in my opinion. Because like traditional tools, like Revit, ArchiCAD, whatever, it is allowing you to draw with actual building products. So if you want to draw a wall, you're going to draw a wall. It brings up, I'll just bring it over here, attributes. So you're going to be able to attribute this wall. So what do I want it to be? Masonry veneer, blah, blah, blah. So I might do a masonry veneer. Again, you can put your wall heights, header heights. This isn't going to be a training video or a major demonstration of PlusSpec, so I will jump through things. But again, PlusSpec keeps very close at its heart this idea of virtual design and construction. So that is why it's including structure. What timber are you using? Because that will affect the overall width of your walls and your materials and how everything else is going to go together. It also does come with a product of like a large materials and product range, and they are Australian products. So you can go through and choose the Austral brick that you want to use, the kind of lining that you want, etc. Press submit, and then like in SketchUp, you're just drawing now. So I might be coming over here, I'll just draw a really quick shape, nothing too fancy, and then once I'm done, it will automatically generate all of the walls for me. But if I now actually just quickly put in my scenes, and I'll just do all of them, it will automatically start producing those 2D drawings for me as well that I'll need to present in my construction drawings or schematic drawings, but also it goes into that virtual design and construction mentality. So if I'm in the all scene right now, but I can always just quickly go into structure. And even if I'm an architect or a designer, I'm not overly concerned with this. It's incredibly powerful to have the structure there because they are the bones of the product, of the project. And of course, the builder will go off and create and make that any way that they want. But just having it in there with no work is a value add. It doesn't cost you anything. And in fact, I think the benefits are enormous. Most graduates don't even understand structure. It takes them a very long time to learn detailing, to learn what's going on structurally. This is actually an education tool as you're moving along as well. There are also very quick and fast ways to, again, really pimp your SketchUp workflow. So when you're drawing windows and doors, I'm in feet and inches here, I don't know why, but I can change that. So I might just say 600, 100. And drawing your window, how's that doing that? Okay. I'm just having one of those dilemmas when you're trying to do a demo live, but for some reason I'm in feet and inches and I shouldn't be. I can go roof and walls, and I can create roofs, very complex roofs, putting everything in there, slabs. It's all one-click parametric modeling, and again, all the layers are there for you. It's broken down by material. The other thing, just to give you an overview that it is doing, and this is really the point where it really steps aside from what you can do very quickly and easily with SketchUp, is estimating. So it does have a takeoff and estimating feature. So if I click on my takeoff here, I can generate a report or takeoff, and I can go through and I can put in really complex estimating. I can bring in preliminary items. I can bring in my pricing sheets, cost codes, vendors. I can also manually put them in there, and I can understand square meters, linear meters of every single product that I've drawn with. Obviously, as a builder, this is really important. It means that not only can you model, can you look for clash detection and create these virtual design construction models, but it also means that when you are doing that, you're also creating your cost estimate, your takeoff, your bill of materials, whatever you want to call it. So you're really doing two things at once. For the architect or designer, yeah, okay, you might not be as interested in the estimate side of things, but what it does do is give you a bit more power. It's giving you the power of when you go out to tender and the builder comes back with incredibly high pricing for your brickwork or your framing or any of those other items, you're able to quickly bring up yours and have a really good understanding of where you're getting overcharged or why there are price fluctuations on those things. And that's powerful because it gives you the ability to go back to the builder and have a better conversation. So it's all about collaboration and better understanding. Now, there are a lot of PlusSpec tutorials online. They are free. If you want to do a PlusSpec tutorial, you can come through trial, come through us, let us know. We can also give you a proper demo. On our website, we actually have a demo or like a pre-recorded webinar that we'll be adding after this one. So you can always go and check that out in more detail. I just wanted, because we're talking about virtual design and construction and for SketchUp in construction, I wanted to mention this plugin because I think it's an all-in-one. It's not only is it giving you the ability to have that virtual design and construction model right from the very beginning, but it's also creating those estimates. And more importantly, for a lot of people who look at SketchUp and say, I don't want to just use SketchUp because I want these tools that know they're a wall and know their windows and move them and everything updates at once. This is giving you that. So again, it's the power of Revit, but with the power and flexibility of SketchUp. And there is no greater combination. I am going to load another file though whilst we wait. So if you do have any questions, please start writing them in there now, and I'll try to get to them before we end. I know that we've got about 10 minutes left scheduled, so I just want to quickly show you this particular example that's giving a combination of a virtual design construction and 3D details. All right, just load that one up in the background. Just wait for that one to load, shouldn't take too long. And I'm also going to show you one more PDF. I'll probably show you a few actually. Whilst that's loading, bring this one onto the screen. This is more of an architectural model. Again, it is a US one by Nick Sonder. Really amazing 2D drawings. Again, that all of your 2D drawings that you're creating with SketchUp layout are directly from the 3D model. So if you change the 3D model, your 2D drawings are automatically getting adjusted. And I want to show this, even though we're talking about SketchUp and construction, because again, this is one of the big things or big reasons why a lot of people aren't using SketchUp as their primary tool. And that's fine if you don't, because we're not like the rest of the software that's out there. You can use SketchUp alongside any other software because it will always have a place, whether it be a sales model, whether it be virtual design, whether it be the 3D detailing or anything else. But it is also 100% capable of being your primary model from a concept all the way to your drawings, so your 2D documentation, and obviously on-site. So this is just a quick example here on screen. Again, sales model. It's also a virtual design construction model because it does have all of the structure in there, everything that's going on, how the rammed earth, for example, detail with the shadow line, how the shadow line details happening with the frame and the gyprock in that occasion here. But it is also going to include some 3D detailing because again, some details, it's just not beneficial to have every single element all 3D design because it's just going to slow it down. So in this case here, this is where I'm going to quickly showcase how you can have SketchUp with your 3D details included in the model. So if I go to tags now, you can see it's bringing up everything that I've got in my project. If I actually turn on this 00 parapet detail, you can see that when I do so, I've loaded it twice. One, it's loading it in place. Where does that detail belong inside of my model? And again, it's now loaded it out off to the side. If I turn off my shadows, you can see that it is trying to capture what's going on there. Pretty basic detail, to be honest. But again, it's showing a recess in the rammed earth. It's showing how this corrugated iron is getting fixed in this recess and the overlap. It's showing the exact screw types and how it wants to be fixed or fastened. Hasn't shown a lot of detail with the parapet, that's for sure, but it has shown a lot of detail in this green roof buildup. So, you know, this is a particular actual branded product. So what's happening with the foam, the buildup, drainage, and then the actual material, the green roof part itself. Again, that part's been simplified because, hey, you don't need to show graphs, you don't need to show exactly what you're trying to do there. You can simplify elements. Really, it's up to you to take it as far as you want to take it. And inside of the model, rather than turning that layer on, instead, if you're just talking to your, someone on site, or if you're the architect and talking to the builder, or if you're the builder and you're talking to your tradesperson, you can simply have these details loaded into your model. So you're like, okay, over here, I'm going to show you the parapet detail. I'm going to click on it. It's going to load into the parapet detail. And again, it's giving you the same thing that I was doing over off to the side of the actual model. And again, I can have multiple angles showing different things. So I'm not having to worry about orbiting and moving around. I could literally give that model filled with all of the scenes that I need, for example, to the concreter, and just have every single thing in that model that relates to concrete, every single detail that I want them to focus on, and it will move them around the model themselves. So they don't have to know how to drive SketchUp, they don't have to know how to use it. All they need to know is how to point and click. And if you're using the SketchUp mobile viewer, you can do the exact same thing on a tablet or a mobile phone. Again, just to reiterate, amazing sales tool. There is a reason why SketchUp is being used by all of industry for a sales tool. And even if you're using other software, and it's because they just don't cut it when it comes to SketchUp. When you're in SketchUp, you can really dive in and show details. You can explore space and have an understanding of, how is your living room going to work with your dining room, and walk through it, and your kitchen, put people in there, and really go to town on products and the way that you want your project to work. And this is a pretty simple project, right? The other really cool thing about PlusSpec, because this one was drawn in PlusSpec, is that it's a little bit gimmicky, but for a reason, the windows and doors will open and close because customers don't understand those things. If you say to a customer, we're going to put a bunch of awning windows in, great, what's an awning window? With this, you can show it, right? And that's obviously not an awning window, but just highlighting. and you can show them how they're going to operate and interact. And more importantly, with SketchUp, this is just essentially a dynamic component in SketchUp. You can recreate it in a similar way. The advantage of dynamic components is you can cycle through, for example, different size beds. You can open and close things so that you can understand if there are any clashes. Now, I normally do load, even though I'm drawing my 3D details in my own, like its own individual SketchUp model. So what I'll do is I'll open a blank SketchUp model, and then I'll start bringing my bricks in, or I might have even brought in the reference of where it sits in my project. Or I might even sometimes, if it's too complex, I'll start drawing the 3D model over my project. And then I'll eventually bring it into its own blank SketchUp model. The advantage of that is then if you create a filing system, whether you do it on your desktop or if you do it on Trimble Connect, you can have all of your details sitting there, and they can be sitting as their own standalone little detail vignettes. But then on top of that, you would have like the different pieces that make up details, like your common brick sizes, the common things that you want to do when you're creating these details. So I will open one more whilst you guys ask your questions now, just to showcase, for example, brick and how you would create your details with this double brick. So I'll just quickly check the questions off to the side. Look, guys, this isn't an overview. I was hoping I could show you a little bit more. Unfortunately, the PlusSpec one caught me off guard because it's brought an Imperial SketchUp template. I don't know why. I should be in metric, and that's what's caused the issue there. But I don't have time, unfortunately, to open a new file and change it to metric and start from scratch. So I'm going to let you just come to us if you are interested in that. But whilst I open this, I'm going to quickly also go back into Nick Saunders' set. It's a very pretty drawing, right? But if you don't want to present in color and texture, you don't have to. SketchUp brings the power back in your hands with your 2D drawings. So again, another detail vignette. You can see it's been cut out. It's been actually built brick by brick, so that you can do really complex things with you're basically building it virtually like you would in real life, right? And that's the power of a 3D detail. It puts a different kind of mentality or a different thinking cap on, so that you can truly understand and create amazing details that would be traditionally way harder trying to sketch them out or draw them in a 2D way. And again, also people in your team and other people that you want to communicate to, zero deciphering here compared to a 2D drawing. And with a vignette like this that's been saved alone, you've got plenty of different details that can be pulled out from window, flashings, brickwork, concrete, rebar, roof drop downs, or eave drop offs, but also brick details like where do you need your straps, how are you going to strap, and again, you can even bring or create scenes that showcase these hold down straps and how you want them to work. 3D details won't automatically update though. So if you do, for example, if you've got a 3D detail of your project and you brought in like a double brick vignette or 3D detail, and you change it to, for example, concrete, a concrete wall, you're going to have to obviously dump that 3D vignette and replace it or redraw it if you don't have it. Conversely, say you have a double brick vignette and you change the cavity, and your 3D detail has the old cavity size, you'll need to manually adjust it so that your 3D detail is at the new cavity. Very, very easy to do though. As you see, they're kind of like building blocks. It's kind of Lego. It is Lego on steroids. But I want to just get down towards the end of Nick's set quickly here too, because I want to show you amazing elevations. I like showing color and texture because when you look at black and white lines, what do they really show? And now we're often printing on A3. It's not A2 and A1 anymore, so we can afford it. I can understand people not wanting to do full color sets on A1 and A2. A3, I don't think that there is any problem whatsoever. I'm going to quickly keep on skipping through. Again, just to showcase interior design, but now we're getting into these 3D details. So 3D detail vignettes that have been included, built separately but included alongside the model. Then you just bring them into your 2D drawing set, and you can call them out. So this one isn't using the keynote; it is actually using the arrows with a description of everything in there. If you wanted to produce 2 dimensions, you could put dimensions on there too. But again, you could also just, if you needed to, you could combine some 3D vignettes with 2D vignettes. That's totally fine. So I'm now going to open the last 3D detail just to give you an example of how you can actually have a color 3D detail, but also have black and white from the same detail. But I think we all, or hopefully every single person that is looking at that is saying, yeah, I wish every 3D detail that I drew is that, because it's fun. It's actually fun to detail again. But more importantly, you know what you're doing, and you know if it's right or wrong. And the person that you share these details with know that they're right and wrong. They understand your intent very quickly, very easily with 3D details. I'm very biased. I'm totally in love with 3D detailing. And just again, because of how fun it is, take away all the other benefits. Just wait for that one to load. Even interior callouts. I'll show you an Australian example whilst that one is loading too. So this is Mark Gregory, and this is some of his sets that he produces. And then we're going to have to wrap up because I've already gone over time. So 3D details, these kind of wall types, you only have to create them once, because if you are repeating your details in any given project, then you're storing them in a filing system. So you go, oh yeah, cool, I've used that particular wall type. I'm going to grab that detail and grab it into my 2D drawing. So I did want to show this because I have shown mainly residential, but we have a lot of commercial and infrastructure industries that are using SketchUp, and again doing it for commercial detailing, 3D detailing. This is actually a pronto panel by Austral, or Brickworks I should say, and they generated the 3D detail with SketchUp so that they could 100% understand how their system is going to work, so that they could bring it to market as a go-to market product. And here you can see, just a traditional detail, traditional slab, and there's a few details that have been produced here, each with different options. Like there is another 3D vignette that's produced where the slab actually isn't recessed down and the pronto panels sit on the outside, more like a curtain wall. So you just create multiple variations, multiple options. But again, I can walk through this 3D detail. I can put fog and shadow on to make it look sexy. I can keep on calling out the different elements down the bottom. If I ever need to know what something is, I've got the tags, I've got metadata. If I go into the entity info, I know that this is, for example, the Resiflex FC33 blah, blah, blah. I know that this one here is a backing rod. I know that this is more backing, that this is flashing, that this is the pronto panel, that this is render, and it has all of those details on there. So again, the ability with the Trimble products that I haven't even mentioned so much is that, yes, you could be using the SketchUp mobile viewer, but you could also be using the XR10 HoloLens 2. You could also be using Sight Vision, where you're bringing your models into reality and really experiencing mixed reality. So this is an example like cross section where you could have it like in color, texture. However, again, with a simple change, all you're doing is turning off color and texture. And when you would go in and turn that into your 2D detail, you could either reproduce it from scratch in layout, like kind of like the traditional AutoCAD way where you're drawing each line from scratch, or you're just using the 3D detail and choosing what lines are at what weight, drawing over and masking elements that you don't need. So I'm going to try now and just wrap up with a few kind of Q&A section. Because we have run over, if you're out of time, I apologize. We will obviously be reaching out about the recording as we move forward, but I'll try and answer a few of the questions that have been asked recently. So how long does it take to get the model and drawing environment set up in order to create this level of detailing? So not very long. With a basic understanding of SketchUp, like fundamentals is normally about a week. Of course, you can go off on your own, you can self-learn. I do want to emphasize here that SketchUp, because it's been made for everyone, it works for everyone. So you're not having to pay people these massive salaries because the software is so specialist in nature. Like, for example, Revit. You have a BIM manager that you're paying 120, 150, 180,000 because the software is very complex. As soon as you try and do things outside the box, you need that person, and they better be there during the project coordination, right, to make sure it runs smoothly. SketchUp isn't the same. The learning experience is not the same. We have a hell of a lot of free tutorials that you can access with your SketchUp subscription that you can walk through on your own. There is also, without doubt, the ability for you to actually self-learn SketchUp, but we at SketchUp Australia also offer training. We offer group training, we offer online self-paced training, and we also offer online training that you can do with a live instructor. But for example, a 3D detail like this detail I know probably took about 30 minutes to create that detail. If you're talking maybe an hour, if some of the things in there needed to be kind of considered a little bit more, but it only took half an hour because the top hats, the steel, the frame, everything had already been done. Everything was already in the library. Potentially, if the exact kind of screw that you wanted to use isn't there, and you have to search for it, those things are going to slow you down. But once you have that product that's now in your library, it's there forever, and you can pull it out in any future detail. As far as other projects go, like how long will it take to create a single story or a two-story house? That really depends on the user and depends on what phase you're on. But for builders, using PlusSpec to estimate and do a virtual design and construction model over the architect or building designer's model, we're talking typically about a day to 2 days to do the entire process from every single piece of structure that you need to include in your design or in the actual project itself, plus the 3D details, plus the estimate. But hopefully that answers your question because it is an easy to learn system. You still do need to learn it though. You can't just jump into SketchUp and think I'm going to produce these in the first hour. That's just not going to happen. Okay, at what level of detail do you suggest to stop modeling 3D and start drafting in 2D? That's a personal question. It really depends on your output. So if you're an architect or a designer and you know that the detailing, you don't need to draw every stick, and you don't want to use PlusSpec to help with that, and you don't need to do all of those things, then I'd probably keep it fairly low level in your actual architectural model, and I'd concentrate a little bit more on the 3D detail / 2D detail, so the drafting side. Layout is so powerful, so that if you do bring in objects or plans or whatever, you're easily able to adjust them. So if you haven't drawn everything inside of SketchUp, don't fear, you can draw at scale inside of layout. So you go into your line tools, your drafting tools, draw to scale, 1:100, drop in furniture, other details, other elements. I just think that it's a very difficult question to ask because it depends on the outcome. If you're going to get a direct return of investment from having a full virtual design and construction model, spend the time. But I wouldn't put every screw in. Like you saw on the projects I showed you, it pretty much keeps it at the bare minimum, even though there's a hell of a lot in there. The bottom plates aren't showing how they're getting screwed down into the concrete, right? You're going to have to make that call. But I do think that level of detail is important. You need enough level of detail in there that you are happy that your design is right, that you've allowed for the structure, and more importantly, that you can communicate it to your builder. And if you are the builder, you want that level of detail regardless. I actually think that if you're not putting that level of detail in before you put your tender or your quote, that's where you're going to get caught out in the long run. I would much rather waste 2 or 3 days in a virtual environment and catch all of those mistakes, because that's going to save you literally tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes more. So more important for a builder and trade than an architect, or building designer. But again, I think that it gives you a hell of a lot of additional power if you, as an architect or a designer, are including quite a high level of detail too. So you're saying to model a 3-bedroom single-story house with all details and drafting done would take, say, 2 days. How long would you need to train yourself up? Okay, so I'd definitely be wanting to do your basics, essentials coursing or course through us, whether you do it in a group format. Unfortunately, you can't do that with the COVID situation anyway, or if you do it in the self-paced learning videos. That's going to take you, a full day typically, 8 hours. You're then going to want to just really focus for the next probably 3, 4, 5 days on the standard tools in SketchUp. So, how do I draw objects? How do I make them a group? How do I push and pull them? How do they stick? How do they need to work? Once you kind of get these basic fundamentals down, then you're going to be confident in saying, well, now I need to take it to the next level, because all you're doing is adding complexity, right? Start simple, add additional complexity. Obviously, if you do jump onto PlusSpec, all the frame and those other bits and pieces you'd have to be a pretty good user at SketchUp to be able to do that quickly. But with PlusSpec, it's going to do it essentially straight away, instantaneously, as you saw. So again, hard to say. I hate to say to people you're going to be a pro and be able to produce amazing, 3D models, virtual design and construction models, 3D details and plans, and you're going to do it in a week. No, but will you be able to do it really quickly? Yes. Compared to any other software? Yes. And it might be that you start one, at one time. Like, what's the most important thing for you? Is it the sales model? And if it's the sales model, you're not going to worry about putting all the structure in, or the virtual, or the 3D details. Maybe it's just the 3D details you need. Okay, start there. But if you do need everything, it's going to take you longer. PlusSpec is $990, including GST. I'll try and answer a couple more, because we've gone 15 minutes over. As an experienced user, I modeled a single-story 250 square meter house in 2D from 2D drawings in 4 hours. Yeah, see, like 100%. 4 hours, that is more than possible to do once you become experienced in the tool and the tool set. And that's whether you're using PlusSpec or not. But PlusSpec will make everything a hell of a lot faster if you're looking at the structure. As a builder, can you upload designer's plans and then create your estimate with PlusSpec, or just trace over using SketchUp? 100%. So PlusSpec actually comes with a PDF importer, so you can go and click on the PDF importer and it will allow you to bring in those PDF plans. But SketchUp allows you to bring in JPEGs. And also, if you're using a Mac, you can bring in PDF directly into the model, scale it, and then you just draw straight over it. Unfortunately, there are a few other questions there, but I'm going to have to skip them because we have gone so far over. I hope it helps. I hope that you look at SketchUp in a new light and see how you can combine it from not only a design or schematic level, but you can take it all the way to the construction drawings and on-site. Please take a look at Sight Vision and Trimble XR10 HoloLens 2. I think you're going to be blown away. And if you're already using SketchUp, then this is your chance to be presenting and selling your designs and understanding your designs 100 times better than you are right now. Anyway, stay safe, and I hope if you're not using SketchUp, you start.